Hello everyone, this is Miss Sarah from the Mount Airy Branch of the Carroll County Public Library. I'm here for the last DIY Friday of the summer, and today we are going to do some back-to-school duct tape crafts. We're going to do two crafts today. Our crafts are going to be, we're going to make some fancy folders. So how do we jazz up those pocket folders? Getting ready, because no matter how you're learning this year, a folder is always good for organizing your information, so we're going to talk about that. And then the second craft we're going to work on is making pencil holders out of duct tape. So let's get started. So the supplies you'll need for these two projects hopefully are things you might have around the house or might be able to easily acquire. You'll need 2 to 3 rolls of duct tape. I would suggest doing them of different designs. It's kind of fun to be able to incorporate a few different kinds of duct tape designs together in your folders and in your pencil holders. So 2 to 3 rolls. You'll want to have a pair of scissors handy, a ruler, and then of course a pocket folder to fancy and jazz up, and then a few pencils, and you'll use the pencils to get some information about what size you want your pencil holder to be. So let's get started with the fancy folders. I'm going to show you the steps, sort of talk them through, and I'll use my laser pointer here on the screen to kind of point out some specific things as I'm talking through the steps. So the first thing we're going to do, step 1, is to go ahead and select the colors or patterns of duct tape that you want to use. So you'll see in my example I chose 3 different patterns. I'd like to see what they all look like together. It'll be interesting. So I'm going to do these 3 patterns. The second step is you want to cut tape into strips, and the strips need to each be 4 inches long. So in terms of the number of strips you need to cut, you'll just there's not really a set number that you're going to need because it's going to depend on the size of your folder. So I would just cut a few sets just of each pattern that you want to use, and you can always cut as you need more pieces. But all the pieces we'll be working with for this craft will be 4 inches long. And then you want to start in the far corner of your folder. So I started in the lower right hand corner of my folder, and you want to place the first piece diagonally in that corner. So if you'll see, here is the edge of my folder, and then because I'm putting it at a 45-degree angle from that edge, I'm going to have some excess there on the side. So our next step is going to be, you can either trim that off if you want to trim that if you're really good at cutting straight. I'm not, so I just wrapped my excess along the edge of the folder. But you could cut that if you're very exacting in your cutting. And the next thing we'll do is we're going to place our next piece. So you'll take another one of those 4-inch pieces of duct tape and layer it perpendicular to the first piece. So you'll see they're kind of making a right angle here to the first piece, and I'll go ahead and lay that down in diagonal fashion as well. And this is going to sort of be like the last piece. I'm going to have excess here, so that excess I would fold up around the side of the folder. And you're going to keep doing that pattern, keep building in these diagonal fashions until you first fill up a whole side, and then you fill up your whole folder, and that's it, you're done. So you'll see how the pattern, is these perpendicular diagonal pieces kind of go up and down, up and down, up and down, and you'll do that all the way through the folder. And then, again, if you want to trim those pieces along the edge or just fold them over, it's your choice. But that's a nice quick way to sort of jazz up those folders that we're using to keep notes and everything during the school year. So that is an example of a cool way you can use duct tape to make some fancy folders. So next we're going to talk about those pencil holders. I showed you the pencil holder in the beginning. We're going to talk about how to create a pencil holder out of duct tape. To begin work on our pencil holders, we're first going to need to start to measure and get the tape set for the outside of the pencil holder. So to start, we're going to measure the length of the longest pencil that you want to hold in the holder. So this, for me here, is a brand new pencil. I measured that and it was about 7.5 inches. So that'll help me move to step 2. And you want to cut 3 pieces of duct tape, 3 separate pieces. Each piece should be 2 to 3 times longer than the pencil. It doesn't have to be exact, but you want to make sure you have enough excess tape so that we can create a flap, that you can close your pencil case, and so also so you can create a pocket. So, you know, here's my pencil. So I probably did about 3 times my pencil. Again, it doesn't have to be exact, but make sure you've got 3 pieces of tape and, you know, get them as close to the same size as you can. Sometimes that's a little hard on duct tape. It's okay because you're going to be folding edges down. So if they're not all exactly, you know, razor sharp, the same size, it's okay because you're going to be folding the edges over. So that's all right. And the third step is you're going to take all 3 of those separate pieces and overlap them to form one larger piece. So if you'll see in this picture here, you can see that I have my first piece stuck to this piece, and then the second piece here, I'm just about to overlap it just a tiny bit with the last third piece. So all 3 of those overlapped pieces will create one large piece in itself, and that will be the outside of the pencil holder. So while you're doing this and you're doing the overlapping, I should note, just make sure you have the sticky side facing up. So that's important as we're working through that step. So the next step is we're going to need to start marking the area that we're going to put the liner for our pencil case. So we're going to have the outside piece, which in my case is that really cool funky pattern, and then the inside I want to make it another color. I'm going to make it transparent blue. So you want to measure from the edge of one of the long sides of the tape outer layer you have here. So mark the sticky side of the tape, the side of the duct tape, with a small line that's 1 centimeter from each edge of the large piece. So each long edge of the large piece, so that basically when you put in the liner piece, it doesn't go right out to the edge. So if you'll see in step 5, see how these inside liner pieces are 1 centimeter away from the center of this larger piece of the outside part of the pencil holder. So we're going to make the inside, it's going to just start about 1 centimeter inside of here. So you're going to cut the duct tape for the inner liner like we did in step 2, and you're going to attach the pieces inside the large piece within the marks. So here's that mark I made on step 4, and then I'm just going to overlap and layer the 3 pieces that I've cut for the inner color, the inner color that I want for my pencil holder within those hash marks. And then this is the short edge. So this edge in this next step, you're going to fold that edge over to create a straight line. So that's why I was saying it's okay. Like if you're like me, we're here, see in step 5, you know, I obviously didn't do the greatest job cutting, but it's all right because in step 6 you fold it over and you make a straight edge with both of the short ends of the duct tape creation that you've got started here so far. So for our next step, step 7, we're going to be working on the pocket that's going to hold our pencils. So you want to figure out if you hold the tape creation you've made vertically, you want to fold up from one edge to the height that you want to make the pocket. So don't stick it down yet, but if you'll see here, I made a little small pen mark here in the crease so that I know how far to fold it over to make my pocket. Make a little pen mark there because that's going to help you in your next step. So after you've kind of figured out how deep you want that to be, so here you'll see this is where my pen marks were. I'm going to cut along the edge of the inner liner up to the pocket fold mark that I created. So it's nice if you have these lines here, you just cut along the edge here and then cut that off here. So both sides will look like the right side does here. I'm going to cut along that inner edge liner until I get to that mark. And that is going to help me when I fold up and work on my pocket. So the next step is to refold the pocket up to where you cut the inner liner. So you'll see I folded it all the way to where I've cut here. So this is where I cut to, and then I fold up to that point in the next step. So going forward, if you want to, you can add this little sort of holder to help keep the pencils steady. You can just, from all the cutting and trimming you're doing, I just used some scrap duct tape that was left over from all the cutting I was already doing. You want to cut that piece to be a bit wider than the liner's width, because when you stick it on the duct tape for the liner, you want it to kind of make a little arc, because if you did it flat, you wouldn't be able to get any pencils under there. So you want to make sure that you cut it so that it'll be able to have pencils underneath. So you'll see here I put a pencil here and sort of made a bridge over that pencil when I cut that. So you want to stick each edge of that on the outside edges of the liner. And once you've got sort of the holder in place, you're going to fold the edges of the outside. So we've got these edges here so that they touch the edges of the liner. So basically you're going to fold these these sticky pieces that are still sticking up, you're going to fold those in, and it's going to create sort of a seam or a hem along the side here. And you'll do that all the way up the vertical. When you're looking at your holder vertically, you'll do all the way up the long edge of the liner. And the next step is we're going to work on the flap that's going to close on the top. So you want to, again, sort of like we did with the pocket, you want to figure out where you want to fold down the duct tape in order to make that flap. So I made a little bit of a crease, and I left a little bit of space above where the pencils are, and I just put that crease there so I would kind of know where my flap was going to fold. And we're getting to the end now. So the next step is I kind of have that tentative crease in there. So I'm going to take the next end. So the short end is up here and here's the long end. I'm going to fold the two corners of that end, the two ends, inward to create a right triangle on each side. And then the next step, step 14, is you're going to just cut a small piece of tape, or if you have extra tape, just to stick those triangles down. Here I'm holding them in place. You just want to get a piece of tape to stick those down so that they're not going to be flopping all over the place when you insert the flap into the holder. And then you're going to fold down at the place where you made that crease for the flap and insert the flap into the top of the pouch. And there you have your pencil holder. So as you can see here, here's the flap I created. It's tucked into the pouch. If I open it up, you can see I've got a whole array of pencils in there, and they're being held in by this piece. And here's sort of a long picture of the whole pencil holder laid out flat. So it's a fun way if you have, a bunch of pencils or pens, or you can use it for any kind of thing to hold it together in place. Even if you had like a compass or a, anything like that, any kind of supply, you can use this method to create sort of a duct tape pouch for it. So that is that. And don't forget, summer reading is still going on right now at Carroll County Public Library. So it is still happening now through August 31st. So you still have some time. If you haven't recorded all your reading or all your activities, you can still get in there and get some points. Remember, if you get to 300 points, you earn a free book. And then if you get to 1,000 points, for those super awesome finishers, readers among us, super extra going above and beyond, you will get another free book once you hit 1,000 points. So You know, you have the potential to win 2 free books this summer, and they're books that were donated to us from Random House. There's a great selection of books, and I think you'll really enjoy them. If you haven't signed up yet, here's the link, car.beanstalk.org/reader365. So that's how you can get signed up for summer reading. And like I said, there's still time, so make sure you get your information in there and enjoy the rest of your summer. Good luck with the next school year. But now you've got some cool back to school duct tape crafts to get you started, so hopefully it'll send you off on the right foot.